Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be playing Vintage. I'm currently waiting for my top 8 of a challenge to start, and I thought why not bring you guys along. I know I don't do that incredibly often. I simply don't play well on camera, so, can't really do that all the time, but yeah, why not today? I'm playing my trusty Esper Lurrus deck. Recently I switched to Esper from Dimir, trading my good mana base with having access to Containment Priest. That also allows me to get Plows and Lavinia in the mix. Bread and butter cards. Lavinia pitches to force and can sometimes lock down opponents. Plows takes care of everything instead of, Fatal Push taking care of most things. This is the classic control deck with, Frogs, Bowmasters, chipping away, hopefully drawing some cards, late game inevitability with Lurrus. Have my draw spells over here, combo potential out of Twister. Wastelands in my mana base. Pretty color-intensive deck in general. A couple of baubles here to recur with Lurrus. And yeah, not much to say other than this deck allows for some awesome games of Magic, sometimes some long games of Magic, and that's going to be our goal today. Yeah, as I said, Containment Priest in the sideboard, Trap for combo, Stern Scolding for mirror-type matches, mix of Steel, Sabotage, Consign, and Annul. Basically, Sabotage being able to bounce, Consign being able to counter triggers, and Annul countering enchantments, but they're all kind of, good against Jewel. So a little bit of, crossover against Oath, crossover against Resolved, what do I know, Trinisphere, crossover against countering triggers out of, Doomsday or whatever the case may be. A couple of pushes to even have a better, pseudo mirror, and then some assorted graveyard hate to keep Dredge in check on top of the already main deck Soul Guide and the quad Priest in the sideboard. But enough talking, let's get to the quarterfinals. Quick moment here to shout out all the awesome Barons over at my Patreon. I'm slowly but surely building a nice community over there, and I wouldn't be without it, and I wouldn't be anywhere without you guys' support. So each and every one of you, thank you so much. And now, let's get back to the games. All right, guys, quarterfinals time. I'm playing the Lurrus Mirror, and I have a great hand. Let's see, what are we doing with this hand? Demonic Tutor, Ancestral Recall, definitely a thing. If I bubble myself and I see a great card, I can choose to not DT. If I bubble myself, see a bad card, the DT is going to be obvious. My main concern is I don't want to go first with Bowmasters in the matchup in general. So, is there ever a world where I'm not casting Demonic Tutor? I guess if I see something like Brock, Ancestral Recall, even Force of Will, I would probably hold on the DT for. So I think for that reason, let's do it. Daze is an interesting one. Daze is probably quite strong, but is it worth delaying my plan for? Okay, I'll try. I will note that my opponent is playing the Dimir version that is on a couple of Ponders, so there's, there's a chance. Passing with 2 mana does tell my opponent I'm on Bowmaster, though. So, okay, I guess bobbling themselves. Is this where I play the Bowmaster out? Basically because I want my opponent to force, and Daze is live right now before my opponent plays a land drop. And I'm going to want to play out Bowmasters anyway this turn. I'm actually going to try that strategy. The dream scenario is I get to Daze. That's amazing. Found very good timing there. Getting to Daze of Force of Will is brutal. So this does give my opponent time to, prioritize around the Bowmaster. But I think seeing the Force of Will there is a very good sign. Also, I have Mental Misstep for Fatal Push. My opponent would not have pushed that card, I feel like. Would not have forced, rather, if they just had, a Fatal Push. So I'm not going to catch that card with Fatal Push. I'm lucky my opponent slow-rolled, like Brainstorm or whatever. So, opponent draws. I expect... Oh, so my opponent wanted to force the Bowmaster. but had their own Bowmaster all along. I didn't have that. I didn't. Oh, Fatal Push. So, again, decent timing by opponent here. I'm going to force my opponent to have the Spell Pierce as one of the remaining two. They don't have the Fatal, the Spell Pierce, so pretty nice exchange from me. Wow, Psychic Frog, okay. So let's get in for 3 and deploy a Frog, protect my white mana. My opponent is playing from behind here. If my opponent goes, you know, Psychic Frog to stabilize, I'll probably just Demonic Tutor for a Plow and keep things moving. At this point, my opponent has to kill the Frog, or they just get buried in cards. Wow, this new feature is pretty annoying. So when I do this, the whole screen is affected. Let's see. My opponent puts Lurrus to hand and is looking to take a hit here, so that's obviously insanely good for me. Lavinia's quite awesome. Can I lethal my opponent here if I Demonic Tutor Ancestral? Demonic Tutor Ancestral my opponent. Get pinged 3 times. Go to 9. This is a 5. 6, 7, 8, and... Yeah, I think I... No, I'm 1 short of lethal here. Let's recount that for good measure. Land, Demonic Tutor Ancestral Recall. Opponent goes to 9. I have 1 card left. This grows to a 5. 5, 6, 7, 8 damage. Okay, so I can't kill my opponent with Ancestral Recall. But it's a pretty nice situation to have. I guess let's attack first. Draw Mox, which is probably an amazing draw. Opponent at 8 life. What happens if I go Lavinia, Demonic Tutor, Plow, maybe? I guess I'm still... Like, Orcish Bowmasters is still very annoying. Maybe Demonic Tutor Time Walk is the way to go. Kind of a must counter. Looks like my opponent does not have anything. Time Walk is a good one here. Time Walk. Do I have lethal? 3. So if I put a card in hand with Lurrus, that would be 3 cards in hand. So 4, 5, 6, 7 damage. Classic. So I guess attacking for 4, deploying Lavinia, playing my own Lurrus. Pretty good. Or... So I think if I find out that line last turn earlier, I think the Lavinia is lethal because I discarded to Frog last turn and I win now. That's how it goes sometimes when you're planning, you know, step by step. So Lavinia, Mox, put Lurrus to hand. Yeah, I could have buried my opponent here. I wasn't good enough to find that line. The Demonic Tutor Time Walk, discard Lavinia, makes it so that Frog attacks for 1 more on the previous turn and this turn. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you have the wiggle room to not play perfectly, sometimes you don't. This was a game where I had the wiggle room. I'm very, very happy that I found the Days line that changed the whole game. So these 4 are good, these 4 are bad. Twister's unreliable against a Bowmaster deck. Negation is bad against, you know, creatures. So it's like, if I'm going to negation, it's more like, you know, then I have it maybe as a backup on the opponent's turn for my Plow or whatever. It's going to be very situational. So I like to sideboard that like this. A little bit of incidental graveyard hate that also cantrips, you know. This could get to be a longer game where Lurrus is relevant than if I can clear my opponent's graveyard with my own Lurrus, then maybe I'm winning that fight. Stern Scolding takes care of stuff on the stack, which is relevant against Lurrus. and Bowmaster so they don't provide value, and then a couple of pushes on top to not, you know, lose as often to Frog as you otherwise would. Okay, pretty smooth game one there. Very happy with that one. Let's see what the opponent can do here. Dave's really showing its potential there. Yeah, this is a clear keep, but this is also a hand where if I don't find a land within a couple of draws, I'm in big trouble. I'm good at buying time, but I'm also not very good at, you know, playing through Wasteland. When it keeps, let's see. Underground Sea, pass. Don't Ancestral me, bro. I don't get Ancestral and I draw Mox. That's very strong. So the good thing about drawing a Mox is obviously it's a mana source. So am I supposed to play out this Psychic Frog, lock myself out of the 2 plows in my hand, expose myself to Wasteland? I think I am. If I get pierced on this Mox, what do I do? I don't think I am allowed to let this happen. So yeah, this is a bit of a forced line where this is what my hand can do. I can play a Frog. I'm bad against removal. I'm good against my opponent's counterplay being Frog. Here's Urza Saga Time Walk, the coveted combo. Really good. Let's see if my opponent can use this. Sapphire is awesome. That makes Wasteland GG's. Psychic Frog dead. So my opponent decides to, you know, not make a token here. I draw Black Lotus. I definitely play out Black Lotus past the turn. Then my opponent can find a single thing with Saga. That is probably a Black Lotus, and we're going to see Lurrus hit the stack, but I'm not sure. You could also argue my opponent's in a decent spot to simply make a token and play a little bit more, you know, consistently here, and it looks like that's the choice. That token, am I going to Fatal Push that before my turn? It's not really a threat. I guess, well, a 3-3, it'll add up. So my opponent is sure scared about Bowmaster right now, so I expect them to go for mana. Whether it's one-shot mana out of Lotus or Mox, who knows? But there's always something about the context within the match. My opponent just got crushed by Bowmasters the other turn. Ooh, that's a good one. So kill that card. Lose my land, which is unfortunate. Because now if I'm going to do anything reasonable, I'm going to have to crack the Lotus, or this is going to be a longer game, which is my chance, you know? I draw Wasteland, so who I guess I'll try and return the favor. Now we both have Mox Lotus. And I would assume my opponent's hand is better than mine. Where did I... Oh yeah, I forced a Spell Pierce. That's why I'm behind on cards. And I guess Urza Saga is a card that does a good job of that. Orcish Bowmasters. So I'm expecting a Psychic Frog to see the light of day now with the floating black. Here comes Psychic Frog. I'm going to take the turn here, and this is a weird situation because my opponent kind of went all in there. And we get a good draw. Wasteland is not a good draw, so I guess I'll plow the Frog and plow the Bowmaster. Is that... yeah, that's reasonable. Then I can put the cat into hand. I'm far away from casting it, though, but... ooh, I have to click the right one. So I have a Wasteland on top of my Sapphire, but I'm facing down a small creature. Opponent's ahead on cards. I think I'm slightly behind here, so I will need some help. Opponent draws from Bauble. Underground Sea is a card I have to play out because I want to build into the Lurrus, but it obviously doesn't feel good to expose it to Wasteland. Pearl. Nothing. Okay, so right now my opponent cannot cast any removal spells. So any land or Mox will allow me to cast Lurrus, then I can cast Lotus and kind of stabilize my mana. One more Bauble cantrip. That is an Orcish Bowmasters. Not bad. Am I playing it out now? Great question. Do I play around my opponent having Ancestral Recall from the top of the deck? I guess I do, because if my opponent goes land and has Bowmaster of their own, I'm kind of screwed anyway, and that will let my opponent save this and turn it into a 2-2. So I guess I Bowmaster here to play around Ancestral and mitigate a little bit of damage against opposing Bowmaster. I think just keep taking damage here is not the best. Also, I really want to draw the land so I can use my mana. Okay, so now my opponent can do relevant stuff. They show the consistent mana base with the swamp, and I have the bad wasteland. It's a pretty cool display. Need a good one. Need a good one. Time Wog is, of course, you know, Time Wog into the best card possible is that also works. That's not the best card possible, and it's also weak to opposing Bowmaster, but I don't feel like I have any luxury here. Opponent's drawing Treasure Cruise, which, you know, is awesome if they can remove the Bowmaster. So let's see if I can spike anything here on the upkeep. Bauble draw. Draw Plow, which is not bad. So now my opponent can go Lurrus, replay Lotus. Lurrus is here. Lotus is here. Now I feel like that Lurrus is protected, but who knows? Kind of smelling Hardcast Negation. Let's see if that even comes up. We need a good one here. Stern Scolding, not exactly on time. Now, what is my opponent going to do? Okay, so at least my opponent's not going to replay Bauble. Nothing more than Bauble here. So now I'm considering attacking. Is that insane? The reason to attack is to represent another Bowmaster. Is that a winning or a losing line? I don't have it in me here, but I should have given that more thought. There is a chance that representing second Bowmasters is going to buy me time on both offense and defense. Bauble is here. Strip Mine, amazing card, unfortunately. That card is dead. Yeah, it's slowly crumbling here, for sure. And the opponent can sit back here if they want to. I also feel like I'm up against at least one force. Otherwise, my opponent would have played a lot of cards. Okay, so my opponent wants to move things along here. I have Stern Scolding if my opponent's answer is a Bowmaster of their own. Let's see. So... Let's ping our opponent. Now I can start attacking with the army, I guess. Force of Will. Attacking with the 2-2 or staying back. I guess I should stay back. Yeah, let's stay back. There's a lifelink. I need my opponent to draw some terrible cards, and then in the meantime I get into the game and build towards Lurrus mana. Starting with, you know, I Tundra, so I can plow the Lurrus, force a force. That's like step 1. Here comes Bauble from the graveyard. Here comes another Bauble. I guess this is part of my, like, how I get back into this game. The opponent can do it one at a time here. They do it twice. I get to trigger Bowmaster twice and kill the Lurrus, so the opponent is very careful. Let's ping the opponent. My opponent is outdrawing me here, which is a big problem. If the army gets to a 4, I guess it doesn't matter, because the opponent's just going to attack. So I'm hopeful this... I guess Stern Scolding doesn't matter at all right now. Yeah, sure. Stern Scolding doesn't matter, because my opponent, if they have Bowmasters, can just replay it, so... It's like the tiniest setback you can ever imagine. Tormod's Crypt. That is alrighty. So I need my opponent to draw 1 million lands and 1 million draw spells. That's more or less the only way for me to get back into this game. Fatal Push on the Bowmaster. I don't think I can allow that. Let's see. Fatal Push on the Bowmaster. Maybe that's just how things have to go. I'm getting outdrawn with no punishment. I'm going to let this resolve and try and spike the Tundra this turn to get Lurrus off the board with 1 backup. Playing around Spell Pierce. Let's see. Ponder makes a lot of sense. The opponent is kind of unlocking their hand. It's a tough call to make, because if I start forcing there... First of all, I'm confident I'm losing that war. Second of all, if my opponent just lets that happen, I draw the white source, then I get my plow forced. It looks super silly. Yeah, I'm really playing from behind here, so there's definitely the case that I should ask myself, how do I possibly win this game? And that probably has to do with stranding a lot of draw spells in my opponent's hand, now that I think about it. Yeah. I like that my opponent brought in Tormod's Crypt, though. That is atrociously bad. Psychic Frog, so I guess I make sure that Scolding does something. I will say, my opponent... Oh, Pierce? Sure. Pierce is very annoying, because I feel like I'm getting forced, but now, you know, I'm kind of all in here. My opponent already replayed from the yard, which is something to learn from. You can wait with that decision, like, throughout the turn, and then, you know, play your stuff out, and then just ignore this, replay Frog from the graveyard. Like, that's totally viable way to play. And then if, you know, this happens, you can just replay the bubble at that point. So now this game becomes next to impossible to win, I believe. Opponent's down to 1 card. I have my 4/4 draw. And here's Underground Sea. That's not a Tundra. So now my opponent's gonna replay and fly in. I'm fine packing up for the last and final game. I still like the same stuff. I have a bunch of relevant cards in the deck. What's my worst cards in the deck? It's something like, yeah, I don't even know. Like, these cards are just all super solid. You can argue that if I had the luxury, if I had a good card on my sideboard, I could cut, like, I don't know, a Wasteland, but I think it's also fine to pressure my opponent's mana that way and actually be able to pounce if my opponent is stuck on lands at some point. Urza's Saga was very annoying. Okay, so 2 games of kind of domination where both players needed miracles for an amount of turns and didn't get there. Yeah, it was forcing through the Sapphire. That was not my favorite moment, but it had to be done. well played by the opponent to fire off Pierce. So my opponent has Tormach Crypt in the deck, and I have Soul Guide Lantern. So that's, that's a decent advantage to have. That my graveyard hate cantrips, while, picking the best card out of the graveyard as well. But, Ancestral Recall, connecting with Frog, drawing a better land spell ratio. There's a lot of stuff that can make up for that. But on paper, it's a small advantage for me. I actually think the mana base is a versus. So I mean, sure, I have Plow, but that's Plow and Lavinia. They don't make up for the basics. The basics are awesome. But I do have 6 removal total, and a Scolding, I guess. So yeah, I have a small edge here, but that's not anything you're gonna, you can't use that small edge for anything in one game of Vintage for the marbles. Let's see if the opponent finds any tricky sideboard that lets the Tormach Crypt stay at home. All right, game 3 of the quarterfinals. I'll play first, show the companion. Let's see what we open here. We open an unplayable hand because that probe has to find a colored source, or otherwise the jig is up and we don't do anything. Okay. Am I allowed to go to 5? That's kind of the issue. I don't think I'm allowed to go to 5 here. I'm supposed to keep. I'm supposed to get rid of... Let's see. I should probably get rid of Force of Will, because there's some world where I draw land, play my Demonic Tutor into like a Spell Pierce, and I can Daze back. And if bad things happen early, I will just pitch the Daze, and the Force is in the deck for later. But yeah, this is terrible. No lands on the 7, no lands here. Could be swimming with the fishes before you know it. Underground Sea on top of the opponent's deck. No play here. No land here. The opponent is just very excited about this. So Mox Jet is awesome in combination with a land. My Plow covers, early Frog. So peculiar tapping from the opponent. So that more or less tells me that Spell Pierce is in the mix, and that's not something I want to see. I kind of need the land here to be competitive, I feel like. That is for sure the land, so now I guess the prophecy will come true, and I will Daze a Pierce. Daze on Spell Pierce, no Force backup. The opponent will obviously let this happen. Get resolves, Demonic Tutor. Ancestral Recall is a way to get back into this game. There's no way I'm forcing here. I have to believe that I can spike a blue card from the top of my deck to protect the Ancestral and use the Plow as against Bowmaster. Also looks like my opponent knows that that's the name of the game. Can we do it? We can't. Soul Guide Lantern is terrible because it... Am I going to respect Pierce and Daze here? I don't think I'm allowed to, unfortunately. I think what I'm going to do now is play Lantern. Then I'm going to play land. Then I'm going to upkeep the Ancestral. Plow the Bowmasters. Accept the counterspell. Yeah. I don't think a random draw on my end is going to be better than a random draw on my opponent's end. Is that true? Maybe it is. Soul Rend. My opponent made the adjustment. So what if I crack the Soul Guide now to draw? Yeah, I'll try and set up the perfect turn with drawing the blue card. So don't want this to happen. Using all my mana. That card is dead. I draw blue card. Don't draw blue card. Terrible shape against exactly that card. So now I need both land and... Yeah, this is not strong. So is this one more? No, I don't think so because of Fatal Push. Am I playing around second Bowmaster? I'm not. Yeah, Magic is a tough game, but I think I like how I played here. Because I didn't want this Ancestral to just get countered, and I was kind of left in the dirt. Well played by the opponent. That was kind of the risk here. Could have killed it on my turn. I think I trade off with my 1/1 here. And then I have Bowmasters to finish off my opponent's Bowmaster. I'm in deep trouble against a frog. My opponent with no frog. Okay. I draw Plow. So I guess I upkeep another Bowmaster. Reoccurring mana themes, mana issues here. Not my favorite thing in the world. Is this a dig through time and response? That would be probably the end of me, to be honest. Can I win without this Ancestral Recall? Maybe I have to. Oh, this is so bad. So now I'm trying to set up a situation where my way back into this game is Lurrus Recursion, Cantrip Punishment, and leaning on that Plow to, you know, just kill a frog and buy some time. Force of Will was obviously a terrible draw, and I'll also laughing a bit in my face here. So now it looks like I'm playing against Lurrus, and my opponent will not respect. They'll just jam here. So I'll respond to the Lotus and Plow. Lose on the spot to Spell Pierce that my opponent found now. Okay. Yeah, that's gonna do it. That's impossible to come back from. All right, that'll do it. Pretty cool match here. Lots of showcasing of back and forth. My opponent's mana base just laughed at me throughout the match, and that's just what happens, you know. But I think this showcased a lot of, you know, how do you go slow and steady? How do you play from behind? How do you maintain an advantage? And yeah, good luck to the opponent. They did a good job, and they're off to the semis, and I'm off to the showers. So yeah, I had a fun time playing on camera here. I feel like I did a good job, and the match was useful. So yeah, all in all, awesome day at the office. Thanks so much, guys, for watching, and I hope to see you back soon for more sweet, sweet Eternal Magic. Bye, guys.